So huge thanks for joining myself and Manish Kataria. Manish, thank you for joining myself. I know you're presenting at Wandsworth on the 1st of March. So, look, lots of people told me many things about you, and I have to get in contact with you, and you've become a celebrity almost, being on Ryan's podcast. So your background is in terms of investment. You were with JP Morgan from 2005, and now you've become noted on your own, and you've got an interesting process you go through when you're looking at investing in deals. So investing in deals for you starts off with the relationship?
Yeah, it's the relationship. I work with a lot of developers. I invest with different developers, and I get approached by different developers all the time. And what often happens is that new developers come to me and are interested in me as an investor, or the investors I work with, and they immediately talk to you about the deal, which is fine, because that's what they're mostly passionate about. But for investors, I think we want to get to know the developers, and I think that's best practice for the developer as well, because it's a long game. It's a relationship, and I'd rather work with a smaller number of developers with whom I have a good relationship. So for me, it's always about getting to know the developer and the process involved in getting to know and doing some due diligence on the developer, rather than going straight into the deal initially.
So in terms of the team the developer has, you're looking at who their key people are, including planners as well. You're looking at QS, quantity surveyors. You're looking at construction specialists. You're looking at the whole spectrum as well, including their legal team, their accountancy team.
Yeah. So I would split the whole due diligence process into several parts. So one of those is team, which you've rightly mentioned. It's the process the developer has, the team, what their edge is, and who they work with. So starting off with the team, it's always good for a developer to have a good team of professionals around them. No developer can do the entire thing themselves. They need to rely upon a good QS, a good planning consultant, a good team of architects, a good construction team. So without all of these important people...
Does it make a difference when you see the construction teams a national construction company, or is that not so crucial?
I think it depends on the size of the project. If it's a huge mega project, then obviously you need scale with the construction team. Most of the projects I'm looking at, it's not really important to have that sort of national footprint. You want a construction team that you have worked with before, you trust, you get the best out of, and also someone who will kind of prioritize you as a developer over and above other developers. You want to be able to get commitment from your construction team.
Sure. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more questions on the 1st of March about team, particularly as you put that as the forefront of the presentation.
Yeah.
In terms of track record, what are you looking at?
Yeah, so track record is also very, very important. We are looking for what type of deals the developer has done. How long have they been doing what they've been doing? What is their specialty? And if they are looking at build-out deals right now, how many build-out deals have they done before? If they're looking at planning uplift projects, how many of those have they done before?
Does it make a difference as well if they say, look, these deals haven't been successful, these planning deals?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I hear, I don't want to mention people by name on video, but I hear some people say, look, if you're not getting no's from planners or planning committees, that means possibly that you're not aggressive enough. So where do you come in that?
Yeah, it's what I'm looking for when I'm asking these questions is not so much your success rate. Obviously, that's important, because if you've got good success rate, you're doing something right. But if you've had one or two knockbacks, it doesn't really matter, because from all of these things you learn from these, and it gives me as an investor some validity in your process. That so you haven't been successful in X, Y, or Z. What have you learned from that, and how have you implemented the lessons you've learned into your next projects? I mean, sometimes it could be a badge of honor to have kind of failed a few times, and then you kind of move on from that, and you'll get better next time.
Sure. And looking at edge, one of the other key words you come across is edge. And where developers can have their edge, of course, local knowledge is key. Some developers like Martin Skinner, noted for micro apartments.
Yeah.
Some people noted for hotels. Nick Carlisle, you mentioned beforehand.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just focus a little bit more on edge and why that's so important to you?
Yeah. I mean, the edge is kind of related to the process you employ as a developer. And there's so many developers out there right now, and there's a lot of competition. So you have to stand out. So from the developer's point of view, you have to stand out and show investors what your competitive advantage is, why we should invest with you as a developer rather than the competition. But
do you look at brand as part of the edge, or not really? That's separate. Is
no,
that communication?
The brand, well, the brand is an interesting one, because brand is becoming more and more sort of prevalent now with social media, and it sometimes kind of distracts the investor from the actual fundamentals of what the developer is trying to do. So you talk about track record, the competitive advantage, the team. All of these things are fundamental things which you should place over and above what you might be looking at on Facebook or LinkedIn, or which are very important, because it's about communication. But don't be blinded by the sort of brand image that a developer has. I would say focus on the fundamentals. Focus on the things that really matter, and really ultimately you're trying to work out whether or not the developer can execute that project to the best of their ability.
Although communication is key, as we were saying before doing the interview, if it's taken a long time for the developer to get back to you before you even invest in the deal, it's going to take a while, possibly even longer, to get back to you whilst the deals in process. So what specifically do you look? Do you have a metric which says they need to get back to me in 72 hours or a week or two, or it's not metrics, it's much more?
It depends on the questions we're asking, and the complexity and the number of questions. I mean, some things that can be answered sort of within an hour. So you're asking about a particular project, and you're asking about what the planning process will involve. The developer should know answers to those questions pretty immediately.
Sure.
So it depends on what type of questions you're asking. So I don't sort of have any hard and fast rules about how long they should come back to me. They should be responsive. If they're looking for investment, investment is a critical part of any development project, because without investment you can't proceed. So you need to be sort of on the ball with communication. You need to be responsive.
And the other key part of your process is on skin. Doesn't necessarily mean they've got money in the deal. It could be, how much time they've invested as well. Yeah. So if a developer is coming to me with an investment requirement, it's always a good sign if they've already spent some money into the deal themselves, if they've invested some of their own capital into the deal. So that gives me a good sign. That's not always going to be possible. So if a developer's working on numerous deals, it's not always going to be possible to invest in every single deal they're working on, which is fine. So, there are other ways to invest. So they can invest their time, they can invest their own resources. They might have already sort of made some small financial investments in planning, pre-planning advice, speaking to their consultants. All of this is a good sign for me that they're committed to the project as much as they're expecting me to be committed. Sure. So you can join myself and Manish at Wandsworth Property Network on the 1st of March. So I look forward to seeing you. Manish, I look forward to seeing you as well. I know there's going to be lots of questions, and it's going to be a perfect evening to get those questions answered. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you.